Peter and John are on their way to the temple. It's 3:00 in the afternoon. As Jews, they would often go into the temple 3 times a day. This was the midday prayer service. They're walking along the road, making their way to the temple. Just picture with me in your mind's eye what the scene would have looked like. It's probably about 24 degrees, and there's a nice cool breeze that is just gusting over their faces. And they're walking along this dusty road, spotted along the side of the roads. There would have been olive trees and different other trees as they walked along. Peter and John are good friends. They've been friends since they were fishermen. In fact, they were called into gospel ministry by Jesus at the same time. And you see how Jesus has used them at various times together. One of the times was when they had the Last Supper. Jesus said, turned to Peter and John and said, please go and prepare the upper room for me. Peter and John were good friends, and they're walking towards the temple, and they can see this kind of creamy gray wall of the temple. And as they're walking towards it, there is this gate which is called Beautiful. In another name, it's called Corinthian, which refers to the costly material from which it was constructed, Corinthian bronze. Josephus gives many interesting particulars about the gate, which he tells us was greatly excelled in workmanship, and the value of it was more exceedingly than the other gates. You see, there were other gates that were around the temple, but this gate called Beautiful was more magnificent than the rest of them. It was bigger in stature. Some of the other gates would have been coated with gold or coated with silver, but this one was more costly than all of them. Josephus tells us that it was so great that it took 20 men to move it. Its massiveness and magnificence therefore earned its name Beautiful. We don't know where exactly the gate was located, whether it was located on the east side, the left side, or whatever else. Scholars have debated its location, but that's quite irrelevant to our narrative, because what we do know is that as they approached this gate Beautiful, there was a man, a crippled man. He'd been crippled from birth. He's round about 40 years old, and we don't know his name, but I was going to give him the name Rocco. Don't know where Rocco went, but we were going to give him the name Rocco. And so here you have Rocco. He's sitting at this gate, and every day he is being brought into this gate by his friends so that he can beg. Now, Rocco's been crippled from birth. And a few years ago, he had heard about this man called Jesus. This man who had the ability to give sight to the blind, who was able to make the lame walk. He was able to give hearing to the deaf. This man, he had put all of his hopes on trying to meet this man so that he could be freed from this affliction that he had had all of his life. Can you imagine the despair that came over him when he found out that Jesus had been cruelly put to death? All your life you've been in the same predicament, but you get this hope that, man, there is somebody that can heal me. There's somebody who can remove me out of this shackles of bondage that I'm in. And then that's all taken away when he hears that Jesus has been crucified. And so now he just sits at the temple gate and he's begging. Now, Rocco was quite a clever man. You see, sitting at the temple gate would have been quite profitable for him, because the rabbis taught that there were 3 pillars of the Jewish faith: the Torah, worship, and showing acts of kindness or charity. Almsgiving was one of the main ways to show kindness and was thus considered a major expression of one's devotion to God. With their minds set to worship, those who entered the temple for the evening sacrifice and prayer would be particularly disposed to practice their piety by generously giving of alms to lame beggars. So this was a prime time location. I remember I was walking up to the cash point once to take out some money, and there was a homeless person there, and I'm taking out money. It's like, oh, do you have any money for me? And you know, this is automatic response. No, sorry, I've got no money. As I grab all of my money from the cash point, I was like, man, okay. And then you kind of feel guilty, and so I now need to avoid eye contact and swiftly move away. So it was a prime time location for him to be sitting by the temple gate. He sees Peter and John. And and don't miss this, he sees them. I actually want to illustrate this. You're going to have to sit on stage for me. Yeah? Or there, wherever's comfortable, you can sit there, okay? So you're going to play the part of Rocco. So here we have our beggar. You see Peter and John. The text says you see me. And you then ask for alms. And here's what Peter does. The Bible tells us that Peter then fixes his gaze on the beggar, on Rocco. So you're looking at me. I then fix my gaze on you. And the word here used is atenisas in the Greek, which means to look intently. And so here Peter is gazing. He's looking intently at Rocco. Now, here's the interesting thing. Have you ever had somebody just stare intently at you? It can become a bit uncomfortable after a while. Often children do it because they just haven't learned the social etiquettes yet, and they'll just stare at you. And sometimes I'll be like, okay, let me try stare back. And even after a while, I get kind of uncomfortable, and you just have to kind of look away. But here, first of all, Rocco looks at Peter and John. Then Peter and John look intently. And here's the interesting thing. This word, atenisas, is used exclusively, apart from in two places in Corinthians, by Luke. Luke is the author of Acts, and he uses this word exclusively, apart from those other two times. And here you have this situation. You have this gaze. Now, there is something interesting about gazes. I want to read this to you. A gazer may invite interaction by staring at another person on the other side of the room. The target studied returns the gaze is generally interpreted as an acceptance of the invitation, while averting the eyes is a rejection of the request. Does everybody understand this basic social behavior? I remember when I was single, you go to social events, and you may see somebody that you like from across the room. Now, the first thing you want to do is kind of catch their eye contact. You know, there's a nice girl across the room, and I need to try and just get that eye contact. If I can get the eye contact, and the eye contact is returned, that is seen as an acceptance of the invitation. Does everybody kind of get that? Yeah? If somebody is looking at you from across the church today, and you are looking back, in social society, that is seen as an acceptance of the invitation. And so when you're single, sometimes you really need to kind of perfect that look. So I used to have a smiles, Jeff, you know. You're smiling with the eyes for those of you that are uneducated. Yeah, so you don't smile with keep your facial expression the same, but you need to let them know that inside I am smiling. So you just kind of... We're digressing from the sermon, people. So here, Peter and John, what they're doing is, first of all, Rocco has looked at Peter and John. So he's looked at them, asked for alms. Then Peter and John stare intensely at him. Now, I want to suggest that because Peter and John are staring so intently, the beggar looks away. Because it's uncomfortable when somebody's just staring at you. Sometimes I play this game, the blinking game, so you can, not blink first with my daughter. It's kind of like, it's uncomfortable to just be staring at somebody. And so I say the beggar looks away. The text then tells us that Peter and John then say, look at us. And that's why I say he looks away, because remember, the initial contact, they say, well, the beggar looks at them. Peter and John then stare intensely. Why would John and Peter have to say, look at us, if he's still looking? And so here this beggar, he looks away because he, in his mind, he's like, well, why these guys, why are you staring at me? And so there may have been this element of uncomfortableness. Maybe they're talking negatively about me. Maybe they're saying things that, and so he just looks away. But his hope is then built up again. Because Peter and John, they then say, listen, no, look at us. Look at us. And then Peter and John really just kill his spirit. Because then he's asking for money and they say, well, Peter, silver and gold, I have none. Now at this time, if I'm you, I'm vexed. So what are you telling me to look at you for? I'm asking you for money. And then I look away because, I'm clearly kind of getting that maybe you've rejected my request. And then you're telling me to look at you. And then you're telling me that you have no money. So what's going on? But then you get this conjunction. This conjunction but, which really flips every sentence on its head. When you hear this but, you really don't listen to the sentence that was said before it. You focus on what was said after it. And so if I come and I say, listen, Sasha, man, I really love you. But now you're not listening to the I love you part. You really want to know what's coming after it. But I don't want to see you anymore. And so here, a silver and gold have I none, but what I do have, I'm going to give to you. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, get up and walk. I want to say to you that while Peter is intensely staring, he is contemplating what he has in his pocket. He's here and he's staring and he's, okay, I see somebody in need. I see a problem here. They want money. Okay, well, do I have any money? John, do you have any money? No, we don't have anything in our pockets. What can we give them? What can I give you? Because there is a desire to meet a need. And here's where practical Christianity comes in. Do we have a desire to meet needs? What do you have in your pocket? Thank you very much. As Christians, what do we have in our pockets? Peter and John have come to a situation where the person is asking for something that they don't have. But what they do is they give the person not what they wanted, but what they needed. as Christians, what do you have in your pocket? And I want to suggest to you that everybody has something in their pocket that they can utilize for the glory of God. I believe that we as a church have really done an injustice to the gospel message by really just promoting two main spiritual gifts, which is preaching and singing. So these are the things that are emphasized in our worship service. So preaching and being part of the band or singing. And so many of us, if we don't have these spiritual gifts, then we just feel there's really nothing I can do for the church. But I want to say to you, look in your pocket for what you do have, because what you do have in your pockets can be more beneficial than some of the sermons and the singing that we will hear up here. Some of the people that have blessed me the most in this church are the ones that simply just come up to me and just say, I appreciate you as my pastor, and give me a hug. It wasn't a sermon. It wasn't a special item. It was just a kind word. There are so many spiritual gifts. When we're walking along the street, this eye contact, this gaze, sometimes we avert our gaze because it's uncomfortable. You know, when you're in the shopping mall and you've got those people with the high-vis jackets and they're trying to get you to sign up for charities, I see them from afar off. I just take out my phone. Okay, because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to reject somebody. And if I can't accept what I know you're asking for, then I'm just going to move on. And so many times there are homeless people and we may not have anything in our pockets. I don't have anything in my pockets, man, so let me just cross over the road. But do you know what you do have in your pocket? A smile. You've got a smile in your pocket. You have time. You have time to just sit down and say, listen, I don't have any money, but I just want you to know that as a human being, I value you. Tell me your story. Why are you in this situation? I'm going to show you that I care about you by just giving 10 minutes of my time to listen to you. It's not what he wanted, but it's what he needed. So many times we just focus on the wrong things, to be honest. There are so many different spiritual gifts. You know, one of the best spiritual gifts? Hugging. If you're a hugger, utilize that spiritual gift, man. Because there is so much warmth that you can give to somebody when they're feeling down. And the problem is that when we come into church, I don't really want to share my problems with everybody. And so happy Sabbath, happy Sabbath. But, you know, sometimes you can know when somebody's not feeling. And this is where your practical Christianity comes in. Do you know what? I can't preach. I can't sing, but you know what? I'll give a mean hug. I'll just give you a hug. Because that's going to make somebody feel better. That's going to uplift somebody. It's not what they asked for, but it's what they needed. Your spiritual gift may be baking bread. But look what's in your pocket. What do you have in your pocket that you can use to benefit others? Here, Peter and John find themselves in this situation. And here's the key. Watch the key to the text. It's found in Acts chapter 2. Acts chapter 2, verses 42 to 47 says this. Understand, this is the condition of the church that Peter and John are in. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teachings and to the fellowship, to the breaking bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who needed. Every day they continued to meet in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. The Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. This is the church that Peter and John are in. Everybody has what they need. Everybody's happy. Everybody is content. They're not only worshiping on Sabbath, but they're breaking bread in each other's homes daily. I have a genuine concern for those people in my church. I genuinely love them and we're interacting. So here Peter and John are now going to church and they see somebody in need. Man, I haven't seen this in a long time. Here is somebody who has a genuine need and desire. I'm not used to this because in my community, we all love each other. Okay, so and so this is what I feel is going through Peter's mind. He's staring intently, but he's, okay, well, how can I help this person? What can I do? I have no money, but I don't have these things, but you know what? What I do have is a connection with Jesus. I'm in touch with my man Jesus. And so listen, man, I don't have no silver and gold, but what I do have is a relationship with Jesus. Let me share that with you. And that's what we have. We all have a relationship with Jesus. Let me just share that with you. And sometimes it's not, let me just sit down, let me just talk. But we need to be more practical with our Christianity by meeting the needs of people. And all of us have the ability to do that just by just flashing a genuine smile. How are you? Just giving time. And I know that we're all busy people. And so a lot of the times, I'm running for the train and I'm running for this and I'm trying to do this. But if you can be intentional to say, this person has no one to talk to. I'm going to spend 5 minutes just to sit down and talk with them. And it's not just about sharing Jesus with them. It's just about listening. Just about listening, because all those things will come. So, what do you have in your pocket? My appeal today is this. Is that we all evaluate what's in our pockets. We all have so many different gifts that I guess we don't emphasize, we don't value, because we don't think that, they're not up the front. But you can do more for the gospel through a smile and a hug and just telling somebody, listen, I genuinely care about your life. I love you. And speaking words of affirmation into their being, than just hearing up here and talking all the good stuff. So my appeal is this, that you find out what's in your pocket. Find out what you can utilize to show people practically. Don't preach it, don't teach it, show it practically to expand God's kingdom.